Hi, everyone. My name is attorney Marina Shepelsky. I work in New York with immigrants from all over the United States. I'm the CEO and managing attorney of a law firm called Shepelsky Law Group. And this is my live to discuss the news. I'm pretty much summarizing today the news in the month of September because this was an important month and a lot has happened in immigration politics, immigration lives in this country. And I just thought it would be a good idea to do these lives to explain to people out there what's going on in just simple language. I forgot to turn on my light, guys. Okay, here it is. Turning on my ring light. Never thought that I would become. Do you like this? Or should I turn this off? I'm going to turn this off. Never thought that I would become some sort of a blogger or video blogger because I started out as a lawyer and an owner of a immigration law practice, and we also do in New York and New Jersey divorce, but immigration law we do federally. We do a station stateswide, nationwide. So I just started to do these, and I saw that people really love to tune in and listen to immigration news explained in simple, regular people's language. And actually, I prefer to get that kind of news myself if I have a choice. But since I'm educated and I have experience in immigration law, I have the rare opportunity to do some good for people and to bring you guys this complicated, convoluted, really weird information in just regular words and regular explanations. I'll get right into it. Okay. The biggest news of this week and of the month of September was that there was some development finally in congressional discussions about an amnesty. People are calling it an amnesty, but some people have told me, don't call it an amnesty. It's not an amnesty. The legal term for it that they're using, the real words they're using are the pathway to citizenship for Americans. So it's been months since President Biden was elected. Democrats, and of course he was the leader of the Democrats, have promised immigrants who are a big platform that they use, okay, a big part of their electorate, the people who are kind of in the front of the different categories of people who got Democrats elected. So they made promises to immigrants to get many of them legalized. And of course, all of you guys know our system is super screwed up and made worse by COVID. COVID made things much worse. The delays have gotten out of control. There's very little accountability for how long anything is taking. So, there was a lot of pressure on Democrats to try to fix some things, at least certain categories of people who everyone kind of can agree on should be legalized, right? So they discussed on and off a real legislature, a real new law to bring out all these changes and finally fix our immigration system. That hasn't happened yet, but then it came time to discuss the budget, and there was pressure put on them again to do something different and to include a pathway to citizenship for at least some kinds of people, groups of people in this budget, in this financial plan, right? So they said, oh, good idea. A great solution to do already something quickly for immigrants would be to include this pathway to citizenship in the budget plan and to put aside some money to make this happen, right? So they said, okay, the budget is going to be this, but we're going to put like $3 billion or whatever towards this, and 10 billion towards this, and we should have some money put aside for immigration reform, a pathway to citizenship. So last week they actually released a blueprint of the categories of people they planned to include in this pathway. Who is going to benefit from this pathway to citizenship? Because all kinds of people are illegal or undocumented in different ways. Okay, people have crossed the border. People have come in with a visa and overstayed. People came with a visa waiver and overstayed. People had a visa but lost it. People had a green card but lost that status. So there's so many kinds of undocumented or illegal people in this country that we were all wondering, well, who are they going to include in this supposed pathway to citizenship, right? And they said, okay, we're going to give you an exact plan, a blueprint, a proposal plan last week when they finally identified who they were planning to legalize. They said DACA kids, and that's dreamers kids. That's kids who were brought by parents or family members or in some other way to the United States without any status, or who overstayed their visa as kids, and now they're over 18 years old, they have no status. Everyone kind of agreed, Republicans and Democrats, that kids shouldn't have to suffer for choices they didn't even make. They were brought here by parents or adults, and why should they even suffer, right? Then they had some other categories. They included farm workers. They included people with TPS. They included essential workers, to be defined by anybody who was helping during the pandemic crisis and has a record of working in the pandemic area, like in medicine or transportation or computers. So they had announced this plan. Everybody was excited. But on Sunday night, a huge blow was dealt to this plan. Crushing news. And I almost cried personally when I read it, because it looked like something was going to actually finally happen. And I found out that they had a process where they had to present this new law to the parliamentarian of Senate, right? She's an appointed official, not elected, but like hired, basically, an employee hired by Congress. She's a lawyer, and her only job as a lawyer working as a parliamentarian is to interpret the chamber's rules to say, okay, you can put this into legislature, you can put this on the floor, but this is not going to work. Okay, so the budget reconciliation bill has a special procedure. It's not like the other laws. Okay, it is a process that requires a simple majority vote, and it's not subject to the filibuster. The filibuster is a fancy word for like long discussions and debates that Congress people can do individually, personally, as they go up on the Congress floor. So any element of the reconciliation proposal must have, and it's a legal term, more than incidental impact on the federal budget to pass. So what does that mean? If it's not directly related to the budget, it cannot be included. Okay? And she thought, and her name is Elizabeth McDonough, right? She looked at all this and said, look, by no stretch do I think immigration reform and new broad immigration policy is measured in federal dollars. You cannot put those things together, even though these like top economists and politicians said before that immigration reform would legalize a lot of people who will pay taxes, make our economy better, right? They had all kinds of reasons why it would make our economy better if you now legalize these like 11 million people. But she said, look, and I'm going to quote, and I wrote this down. I prepared for today's thing, so I wrote it down. It is by any standard a broad new immigration policy, this pathway to citizenship. The reason that people risk their lives to come to this country is to escape religious and political persecution, famine, war, unspeakable violence, and lack of opportunity in their home countries. This is immigration reform, and it cannot be measured in federal dollars, is basically what Elizabeth said, and shut down the idea of including a pathway to citizenship in the budget plan. Okay, she said you can't include this, and you have to make it into a separate law. It shouldn't be done as, by the way, as part of the budget plan. It deserves its own time to negotiate and present as a real legislator. And the thing is, President Obama tried to do DACA by executive order. President Trump did a bunch of executive orders too. These were presidents who are not supposed to make laws, who tried to make laws. And we all see that everything has been challenged in federal courts and it doesn't work anymore. So basically, if real change is to be done, it has to be done in an adult way of making this as a separate law. Okay, it shouldn't be squeezed into a budget plan or any other plan. We need to fix it, and we need to fix it now. Okay, Democrats wanted to give millions of undocumented immigrants a pathway to citizenship. They wanted to do an amnesty. They wanted to do something to appease, to make happy the voters, but it didn't work right now. So what do? We get upset. We have a little bit of an upset time for a couple of days, but then we have to regroup. And today I wanted to discuss some other options, like a plan B, right? A backup plan that still can make this pathway to citizenship a reality, okay? First of all, maybe we shouldn't give up yet on including it in the budget plan. The Democrats in the Congress can take a new plan to the same parliamentarian and maybe make it less broad, maybe narrow down some of these legalizations, maybe tie it more to the federal budget. That's for the lawmakers to do. Maybe I don't have the best ideas, but basically, I think if they do a better job of connecting it to the budget law, to the money aspect, maybe it still has a chance of passing, even with the parliamentarian. Option number two, and I don't think this will ever happen, is overruling the parliamentarian. Like they can just say, we're not going to listen. We're just going to go ahead and present this to the floor. I don't think it's going to happen because if you're in politics and if you're in Congress, you have to play by the rules. Listening to the parliamentarian, she's like a hired arbiter, like an inside person, like in-house counsel to them. And if they don't listen to her, they're going to be in big trouble. So I don't think this is an option. But yes, some people have said, screw her. It doesn't matter what she says. Just move on with the plan. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay. The third option is to return to negotiating with the Republicans on, again, narrowing this down somehow. And we know that some of the less conservative Republicans would agree to legalize the TPS people, farm workers, and DACA, right? I think they would agree, these kids and the farm workers and people who have already a temporary refugee status, TPS, should be legalized. And if they agree, I think there's a lot more possibility that this will pass. Because if the two sides agree, I don't see how the parliamentarian is going to overrule that. Okay? Because if they all agree, there's nothing to overrule. But the Republicans were against this pathway to citizenship. So she kind of took their side when they presented all these rationales why immigration reform is not related to the budget. So if the two sides don't disagree anymore, if they both say, okay, we agree on this, I'm sure she's going to say yes. So use the well-known wish for the Republicans to legalize farm workers and DACA and find the middle ground. That's the next option. And the final option is to get serious and not do this whole budget inclusion thing anymore, to start making a new immigration reform, a real amnesty, a broad, far-reaching legislation that will be serious about modernizing and repairing our broken immigration system, okay? A whole new law, okay? It cannot be anything that was done before. We're living in 2021. There's so much going on in immigration courts and asylum system and at the border. Just let's find some way to fix this as a whole once and for all. This will be a historical thing. I think if they find a way to do this, they will go down in history, but it shouldn't be squeezed into the budget. I kind of agree with this lady a little bit, you know, because it makes it seem like it's just like a by the way, like a you know, just something you just think about on the way to doing the budget. I don't think that immigrants deserve that kind of treatment. I think they deserve to be legalized in a real way. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Let's see what happens. We still don't know how this will go on. and how this will proceed. But maybe some narrower, more limited legislation will pass still. We'll see what happens, okay? I think that the Democrats should invest more time and more efforts into building more bipartisan, meaning they should get a real conversation going with Republicans, because I feel like both sides should be equally interested in legalizing. Okay, so that's that. That's all I'm going to say about that. So that's been the news of the week. Another news is that I think some new forms are coming out. I'm going to just take a look real quick because I was just reading it this morning. So I think they've published a new form. They published a new form this morning, which I can't remember right now off the top of my head. I have to take a look. So just something I wanted to mention today before I even get into the specifics of this is that please make sure when you apply for anything to use the very latest forms that USCIS has on their website, okay? They update these freaking forms all the time. We always check that the form used is the very latest edition. If you don't use the very latest edition and it's already past the time when they still will accept the old forms, they will just reject your whole package and return it to you. And for many people, that means being out of status or some other major problem, okay? So the new form that they updated, by the way, I found it, is the application for waiver of the foreign residency requirement for people who have that 2-year residence rule and all that. Okay, and the naturalization application, N400, is the same way. They've updated it. They're saying they will no longer accept the old editions of the citizenship application, N400, and the application for waiver of the foreign residence requirement. So that was in the news this morning from what I received from USCIS. They emailed me as part of like their stakeholders, the people who are in their list of interested people in immigration. Moving on. Today, I also planned to discuss what is VAWA, right? Immigration news are important, but also there's things happening in the practice of immigration law that we see changing all the time. And since at our firm, we do a lot of VAWA work, Violence Against Women Act work, I see some changes in that field too, so I wanted to discuss it today. First of all, for those of you who don't know what VAWA is a process of legalizing through marriage to a U.S. citizen when your marriage is bad. It's a struggle. You're being abused. You could be a man or a woman. But if you're married to a U.S. citizen, actually, or even a green card holder, and you're struggling, you're in a bad place in your marriage, we can get you a green card and a work permit while you wait. It's not a short process. It takes usually between like 2 years and some people even 4 years. But the benefits of this is that you no longer need the abuser to cooperate or to help you or sign not even one paper for you, okay? So you and your kids can legalize, even if you came without a visa. Even if you violated some other immigration law, you overstayed your status. You were married to somebody before and you were divorced. But not if there was marriage fraud before, okay? If you had a marriage fraud case, we cannot help you. Let's see. We can help you legalize if you're not even living with this person anymore or recently divorced. Even if you're divorced, but it's less than 2 years from the time of the divorce, you can legalize. You can get a green card through VAWA, okay? What are some news in the VAWA field? What are some updates? And I'm going to tell you some updates before I get into answering the questions I see you guys posting here. And I will get to answering them in a minute. But before, I want to tell you what's going on in VAWA. In short, it's gotten much harder to get VAWA. They want a lot more details when you present to them the proof of the dating and the marriage that you had the intention of creating a real family, meaning you meant to get married for love and to have a family. You didn't get married for a green card. You have to prove that. And to prove it, they want you to talk about dating, the things you did together when you were dating. How did you meet? How did you interact with each other's families? How did you get married? Where did you live? What did you do together when you lived? What kind of jobs did you have? What kind of a family were you? Part one. Part two is they want more proof of the abuse. Just because you say you were abused, that's not enough. They want you to present an expert evaluation. Usually we ask our clients to go to a psychologist or counselor or therapist or even a psychiatrist, a medical doctor, if it's really extreme, like sometimes we see. Get prescriptions for medications. Talk to the doctor about what happened. Have them write you a real evaluation. Don't be afraid if you're physically abused, which, by the way, not everybody is. And just because you're not physically abused doesn't mean that you can't win. You can win, but you just need other ways of proving abuse. For physical abuse, don't be afraid to call the police. Don't be afraid to get the order of protection. Don't be afraid to go to the police precinct and do a report. We've had clients whose husbands or wives stolen from them, took things from them, abused them financially, stole their identities, did terrible things to them without even touching them. All of that is abuse. If you're being blackmailed by your spouse with your immigration status, if they're telling you, we're going to deport you, I'm going to deport you, you are nobody, who's going to listen to you, you're illegal, I'm a U.S. citizen, you don't have any voice here, no one is going to believe that I'm such an upstanding person and I did anything to you. I'm going to scratch myself. I'm going to make it look like you need to go to jail. You're the abuser. And if you guys are watching about what's going on with Gabby Petito, with the young girl from New York who went across the country in a van with her boyfriend, and then she went missing, and he came back to Florida like nothing happened, all by himself. That's a good example of an abusive relationship where nobody said anything, even though now all kinds of friends and family is coming out of the woodwork and saying, hey, he was controlling. He took her ID away so she couldn't go to a club. The police officers approached her and wanted to arrest her because she's the one who's crashed him, probably after he slapped and beat her first. And he was gaslighting her and making her crazy. When somebody makes you crazy, even if they don't hit you, and we don't know what happened with Gabby, but the guy is missing. He's now a wanted criminal. Most likely he's the one who did something to her, because when they found her body, no thanks to him, in Wyoming, because some bloggers remembered seeing the van and remembered and had a photo. Because of that, the police and the FBI knew where to start looking for her body and went and found her body. It was declared a homicide, which means the coroner thought she died by murder. Somebody murdered her. And the guy just returned home doing nothing. This is a great example of somebody, if she was an immigrant, she should have left his ass and filed for VAWA long before, okay? God forbid, but we deal with this all the time. I encourage my clients to call the police, to leave the situation. Don't be afraid to get a protective order. And if you have a case in the process, don't be afraid. If anything, this will help you, okay? So that's all that I have to say about VAWA. VAWA is one of the greatest ways to legalize, and it forgives a lot of things, but you have to put a lot more work into it now than you ever did before, because so many people are filing. I think this pandemic has put so much stress on marriage, and especially marriages where one person is legal, one is an illegal immigrant, that there's a lot of abuse out there, and a lot more VAWAs are being filed by different lawyers. And I definitely think you need a lawyer if you're planning to win your VAWA case, because all the time, every week, somebody comes to my office showing me that they filed on their own or with a paralegal, and they screwed up the case to the point where I can't even sometimes take it and fix it, okay? If I don't feel confident that I can help, I might not even take the case. I like to take the cases where I see that I'll do some real work and be able to help. But if you went ahead and you filed without a lawyer, your chances of winning are very low. Anyway, now I'm going to get to answering your questions because I know many of you tune in for that reason, and that's awesome. I'm very happy that you guys are watching and asking questions, which means you trust me and you like my presenting this information enough that you think I have good judgment and I can give you some good advice. By the way, before I do that, I cannot give legal advice on camera on YouTube. I recommend you give us a call. My phone number is on the bottom of the screen. And some of this information I will discuss and I will tell you what I think, but this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not to give you any specific legal advice or to create an attorney-client relationship. I'll get right into it. Junior says, good morning, good morning. Tsenam Namagayal says, how about I-730 processing times? The I-730 is a petition when somebody wins asylum and they petition to be united with a spouse or kids. Asylum granted, and they want to bring their spouse or kids here. Those petitions are taking a really long time, like 2 to 3 years sometimes, so just be patient. And it's delayed again because of COVID. Wassam says, Maria, hi, 245I, that's an amnesty from 2001, 245I. Can we adjust status without our visa becoming current? No, you cannot. You cannot adjust status until the visa is current in your category, because if it's not, they have nothing to give you. They literally pull out a visa for you, and then they give you a way to get it here. That's why it's called adjustment of status. But you can do it here even if you're out of status for like many years using this amnesty. But if there's no visa available, they have like literally nothing to give you. So you're not going to be able to do anything. Jamie, who is my longtime follower, hi, Jamie, says, hello. He's happy to see me. And in Russian, he says he hasn't seen me for a long time. The next question is from Husna. Any bill? Oh, yeah, I can do this. Look, you guys. Oh, great. I can show you on the screen the comment. I forgot about that because I haven't done these lives in a while. Any bill can benefit who are outside the USA. F4 category, how long is the wait? Will they benefit outside? Okay, this is the same question that people ask me all the time. All this talk of the amnesty, the pathway to citizenship, this is really to legalize the people who are here inside already. And it has nothing to do with making the wait times shorter for the people on the outside. So I don't have any good news right now. We'll see what happens, but I don't see anything happening anytime soon. Rosie says, how long for adjustment of status? Depends where you live. If you live in New York right now, it could be 2 to 2.5 years, long time. If you live in some other states, which have less people applying, and those offices are a lot less busy, it might be less than a year. Who knows? It depends where you live. That's the answer. Ksenia says, when will they be deciding? So I think you're talking about the pathway to citizenship. We'll see if they're going to bring it back because the parliamentarian said no right now. So as of right now, they're not bringing it back, but I think they might still have a chance because there's a lot of pressure on them to do something. Maybe even to legalize DACA and farm workers. They will say it's a victory. For politicians, they will say it's a great victory. So I think soon, within a month, we'll definitely see something. Brian says, hello, will immigration call the people gave me a recommendation letters? They usually do not call, but once in a while, I do see them calling. Once in a while. They usually will not call anybody who gives the recommendation letter. Rosie says, oh, hi. Thank you, Rosie Ortiz, for asking. How long does adjustment of status take under VAWA? At least 3 to 4 years. I'm being honest with you. My clients, again, we're in New York, so it takes longer, as I just mentioned, if you live in a busy place like New York or Texas or California, to get the adjustment of status. So the VAWA itself takes 2 to 3 years, and then maybe another year for adjustment of status. Oh my God, my throat is so dry. I wish I brought a glass of water with me today. um, Jamie says, every time there's a new president trying to push amnesty to get extra cookie votes for congressional election, I agree. Immigrants are stuck in the middle of all these political games. That's the reality. This amnesty is important to us, but to them, it's just a political game. It's just some trigger they're using to get other things. If any of you guys ever watched House of Cards, um, it's a very realistic show, okay? House of Cards shows that the real reason politicians get involved into all these causes like immigration, pension reform, social security, or whatever is usually just to get brownie points. I agree with Jamie, for something else. Like if you are on the pay with the guns lobby, but you do a negotiation and you agree to this, but then they have to agree to your gun lobby and your gun ideas, then you'll agree to it. It's all a give and take, and politics is not really about helping people, but it is up to us to push this along and give them an understanding that we won't stand for it, that we want a reform, that something has to happen. And I think yesterday there were protests, there were immigration advocates marching in Washington to get Congress to do some immigration reform. So, you know, everything has good sides and bad sides. Okay. Sampreet says, ma'am, if I came to USA with a tourist visa, can I extend or change my status? You can give us a call at the office. I don't have the time to go through the options here with you, but there are some options, like you could go to school, for example. And Linda says, yay, I made it. Hi, Linda. Thank you for making it. Anika says, what happens after I get my second prima facie with a VAWA case? I already did my biometrics. For now, you just have to wait. Nothing might happen. You might need even a third prima facie. Who knows? They're taking a long time. Sanam says, thank you. Thank you. Linda Ledesma has a question. What happens after biometrics with VAWA? Then you wait. And a lot of times, the next thing is your file will actually finally reach a live officer. They will open it, they will review it, and they might send something called request for evidence, which they will say, okay, you gave me this, 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 and this. I looked at it. I think you need to add XYZ. Or if your case was done really well with a lawyer, like if our firm sent your case, a lot of times they just approve them. But it takes a while. It's not going to be overnight. Breaking Chain says, my daughter is in Jamaica. She's 14. From September 2020, she does all now nothing. Everything is super delayed right now. So just have to be patient. Check to make sure your NVC case, the CEAC account is open and everything is going forward. What is the cost of filing a VAWA with your firm? It depends. I don't have like a set fee. It depends. Sometimes the case is really well prepared and we don't have to do as much. Sometimes it's a little more. The range is between 8 to 12,000, and plus there's other fees like translations, government fees, and so on. So if you're serious about it, give us a call. We can help you, and we'll tell you how much it costs when you do a consultation. By the way, if you guys are planning to call, and you're welcome, obviously, to call. Let me tell you how we do business. Everyone has to have a set up consultation with our team. You see me, but I run a firm. There's 2 other lawyers. There's a bunch of paralegals, and we have immigration experts who do consultations, who are lawyers, they're non-lawyers, who are certified experts in immigration when you call. So we do paid consultations, and the cost for consultation ranges between $200 to $300. And if you give us a call, we'll set up your consultation. You'll have a chance to send us your paperwork. There's no rush. We want to take the time to get to know your case and give you the right legal advice. Thank you for asking. Manish says, any chance to use the unused visa till now for family green card? It depends. Give us a call. We'd have to see where in the process you are. Okay. Sometimes, yes, you can use it. Sometimes you have to file from scratch. Thank you. It open fee, pay, got number to log in and everything. Oh, so you did your NVC case already? And you can pay now. They opened your CEAC account. You can upload all the documents, pay all the fees, and then you have to wait for them to send the case to the consulate for an interview. And the consulates are also very delayed right now. They announced early in September, that's part of the news, that they're going to do like a 4-tiered system to bring interviews in finally after COVID. And the first tier, the very first level is going to be adoptions and emergencies. The second tier is going to be fiancé visas, U.S. citizen spouses and children under 21 and parents. The third will be like all the other preference categories. And the final 4th tier will be the diversity lotteries and the employment visas. So it's going to take some time, but hopefully they'll get to everybody. And each month they're planning to schedule from those groups, from those 4 groups. Mozarto asks, why RFE responded on VAWA has taken more than a year, but no response from USCIS, and there hasn't been any issue of prima facie? It took a year because it took a year for somebody to take your case in the hands. Okay, it was just laying and waiting for somebody to look at it. That's why it took a year. They looked at it, they decided you didn't bring them enough, so they issued the RFE. Now that you sent it in, it's probably again waiting its turn. It's very delayed. I found out that the way that VAWA gets processed is that the Vermont Service Center collects everything for the officer and ships it to their house. And they work from home even from before COVID. So some things take a long time. They ship it back and forth. You know, it's delayed. Linda says, is this live going to be saved here on YouTube? Absolutely. You can watch it later. Thank you for asking. Okay. Somebody by the name of Adewunmi Toyin says, I'm going through domestic violence. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I just got a restraining order. Can that help to put it in for VAWA? Absolutely. If you're going through domestic violence and you have a restraining order, I'm going to ask you to call us. We can do your case for VAWA. Now, you will have to add to that your story. Proof of the marriage, that it was a real marriage before it got to the violence part. And some other things, like you have to prove that you've never been arrested for anything serious and good moral character. Give us a call. The number's on the bottom of the screen. Gihan says, what about the registry for the lawful permanent residency? I don't know what you mean. Maybe you can clarify. That's all the comments that I'm seeing for now on my screen. I know you guys probably have even more questions, but there's only so much I can do in one live. I'm losing my voice, actually, because I forgot to put a glass of water here. I will have a glass of water next time. I will prepare more interesting information for you guys next time. You guys can write with questions. Prepare your questions for our next Friday's live, which I'm hoping to do around the same time, maybe like around 11:15. I do these from home. I prepare for them for a day or two ahead of time. And before I go, I have time to do 2 more questions that just showed up on my screen. Okay, Ozkan says, how long does adjustment of status take once you have an approved U visa? 3 years before you can do the adjustment of status. Raj says, hi, can I travel to Hawaii and other states? I'm overstayed. Yes, you can. If you have good ID, your ID is not expired, your passport, you can travel domestically. Hawaii is one of the states. Leaving to Hawaii is not the same as leaving the United States. Linda says, what category is VAWA with USCIS? It's immediate visa category. And finally, Sumara says, this is my last question of today, I promise. Is it easy to get a 10-year green card? That's a loaded question. It depends. If you're still with your spouse, it's not hard because you have to prove that you're still living with your U.S. citizen spouse. If you are filing because you're no longer with a spouse, you have to ask for a waiver. That's a lot more complicated. You have to explain what happened, and you need a lawyer. So we can definitely help you, but give us a call. This is all for today. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you all stay well and healthy. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week. Happy to be with you. Bye.